Welcome everyone, this is Nathan Lindorf with The Rational Independent. As I looked at the news cycle today, I considered discussing Donald Trump's brewing war with the Swifties. People who are fans of Taylor Swift, I guess. Sorry, I'm a 40-something male. I don't care about Taylor Swift one way or the other. And then I thought about possibly talking about an article discussing Donald Trump's continued search for good lawyers who can take care of him and make the law do what he wants. He's constantly churning through legal talent. This happens. Being a lawyer fired by Donald Trump is a long list. It happens all the time. This is just how he does business. Very adversarial. But also just seemed kind of vapid. Didn't really have much substance. So I dug around a little bit, and while this one isn't leading Reddit, it deserves special mention because it's a follow-up on a video we did last year. As those of you who have maybe watched a few of these videos recall, last summer, Ron DeSantis, in the lead up to announcing his campaign, passed a bill or signed a bill into law that his legislature had passed in Florida that was phrased by opponents as the Don't Say Gay bill. Now, once again, that's dumb narrative speak and it's not factual, but the real crux of the law was that Florida schools were not allowed to basically teach sex-related topics, heterosexual, homosexual, transsexual, whatever, to basically third grade and below. Now, after that, they looked at expanding that law, and there's a few other things you can have that argument. But basically, Ron DeSantis was part of a group of lawmakers that said, listen, we're going to basically say, schools, you're not allowed to talk about sexuality for third grade and below, 8 years old and younger. Now, a lot of Disney's employee base is based in Florida and is very left, and was furious about this law. And so they fomented discord amongst the Disney rank and file, leading Disney as a company to publicly criticize Ron DeSantis's Don't Say Gay bill. As a result, you poke the bear, sometimes the bear bites back. Ron DeSantis basically took the super sweetheart deal that Disneyworld operated under, the Windy Creek Improvement District, that basically empowered Disney to do whatever they wanted for Disneyworld, to cut red tape, to run their own police department, their own utility company, to have their own zoning. They could do pretty much whatever they want. And they carved out this sweetheart deal way back when Disneyworld was built, 40, 50 years ago. Florida basically took that away and said, listen, you don't get this perk anymore. And Disney World has, and Disney by extension, is likely going to suffer from that. Now, at the time, we made some videos on this back and forth, and there was a lot of hyperbole, a lot of hyperbolic statements by commentators at the time, Reddit articles, talking about how Disney was going to win this fight against Ron DeSantis, that they were going to sue and they were going to win, and they were going to basically show how Ron DeSantis was a power-grabbing, unconstitutional monster seeking to be a tyrant of all these super nice, creative people. I don't remember the exact verbatim quotes, but you get the point. Here we have CNBC. Judge dismisses Disney's lawsuit alleging retaliation by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. So effectively, Disney sued Ron DeSantis and the board members for it's no longer the Windy Reed Improvement District. It's called something else, but it's the same sort of body. But this is now staffed with people chosen by the governor, confirmed by the Senate. And basically, there's a flattering picture of Ron DeSantis. You couldn't have picked a better one. I think we've got a little bias here. They sued the members of the new board, basically alleging that their actions that are harming Disney were done in retaliation, in violation of Disney's free speech rights, First Amendment rights. A judge on Wednesday dismissed a federal lawsuit Disney filed against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for alleging they retaliated against the company for publicly criticizing a controversial parents' rights education law backed by the governor. CNBC resisted the temptation to call it the Don't Say Gay bill. Good for them. Good reporter. Judge Alan Windsor ruled that Disney lacked legal standing to sue Ron DeSantis and the Secretary of Florida's Commerce Department on a claim of violating its First Amendment rights. So he basically said, you have no standing, go away. Which again, I don't love the doctrine of standing, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you are using lawfare to pursue your political ends, and sometimes those tactics can be used by your opponents to hurt you, well, that's how this works. Windsor also ruled that Disney's claims failed on the merits against members of the board of a special improvement district. So that's where he's saying the suit for Disney also sued the members of the board, and he said, you don't have, it's not a constitutional standing issue, you lack the merits. You don't have enough to proceed to trial. The judge on that point cited federal appeals court rulings which hold that when a law is constitutional on its face, a plaintiff cannot sue on free speech grounds by claiming that the lawmakers who passed it acted with a constitutionally impermissible purpose. Disney says it's going to appeal. It's controlled this board since 1967, so doing a little math, I underestimated, that's 57 years ago. Boy, I'm good at math. What's interesting is a little bit of the nuanced back and forth here. So effectively, Ron DeSantis didn't eliminate the sweetheart deal. What he did was say, we're renaming this district and changing out all of the members of the board with people who are not pro-Disney. And another article that we critiqued last summer talked about how in a final moment of triumph in the 11th hour, the very clever lawyers involved with the old board members basically said, we're going to delegate our rights to Disney to run itself. And this is in place, this agreement is in place using some kind of weird royal pretext where it was going to last for hundreds of years. And they thought, wow, in this article, that's a clever trump card. After the new district was created, it voted to toss out the development agreement that Disney had that had been approved by its predecessor. So that lovely, wonderful, Trump move, Ace of Spades move, didn't really work out that way, did it? Oh, we got there anyway. Disney had accused the defendants of punishing the company with the changes to the board after the company in 2022 denounced legislation dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill by critics. Now law, the legislation limits school classroom discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity. I'll give them that. They use the popular name because that does help people orient if you're not following all the nerdery, if that's the name you know it by. But they at least took the time to clarify what the bill actually does. So, 2 points for CNBC. DeSantis had touted the law and his fight with Disney during his run for the presidential nomination. They asked the judge to toss out the suits. The federal court's decision made it clear that Governor DeSantis was correct. Disney is still just one of many corporations in the state, and they do not have a right to their own special government. That's what they had. If you really look at the details, crazy. They could build a nuclear reactor in their district if they wanted to. Like, it's mind-blowing, the sweetheart deal they had. They threw it away for a few cheap political points. It looks like we're challenging something else too. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. The ruling does not affect a Florida state, so this was a federal court, a Florida state lawsuit by Disney seeking to reverse the new board's decision to undo the company's development agreement with the board's predecessor. So they said, hey, we're going to tie up all of our stuff in a special sweetheart deal and basically gut the power of this board before we lose control of the board and just give that to Disney. And the new board said, no, we're going to undo that. And Disney sued and said, no, we really want to do that. Lawyer fights take forever. We'll see where that goes. The judge wrote that Disney also lacks standing to sue the Commerce Department secretary, writing that Disney struggled to articulate any injury attributable to the secretary. This ties into, it's just interesting follow-up to me. I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff. But I also want to point out that this actually ties into some of the conversation we're having about Donald Trump's pending verdict in the New York City or New York State's fraud case against him. He's got a lot of cases, but the fraud case alleges that Donald Trump overestimated the value of several of his assets, thereby attaining more favorable loan terms, thereby enriching himself or something. And they are looking to penalize the Trump enterprise something like $300 million for that infraction, and possibly wrest control over his organization or remove it from New York State as an operating entity. All of those are incredibly draconian efforts. Here's the deal. There's no injury even alleged. There's no one on the other side of this. Normally, the law requires that you can attribute injury. Look at this. Lacks standing to sue, writing that Disney struggled to articulate any injury attributable to the secretary. That is a notion that makes sense. That is a notion that says, if you're going to sue, there should be a harmed party. But in New York, they're going after Trump. And the counterparts to this transaction, the banks, testified in Trump's favor, saying it's fine. He followed basically business practices, industry standards. And we did our own independent appraisal, and we were content with the risk-reward ratio. We gave them the loans. We all got paid. Everybody's happy. But the state is suing Donald Trump and looking to take hundreds of millions of dollars from him. That's the reality of what we're facing. Show me where that's legal, moral, ethical, any of these fun words. Anyway, this is Nathan Lindorf with The Rational Independent. Good luck out there.